Hi there, I'm your host McAuley Tucker, and you're listening to The McAuley Tucker Show, the podcast where I sit down with some of the most accomplished and fascinating individuals in the entertainment and business industry. From celebrities to industry leaders, our guests offer unique perspectives and inspiring stories that will educate and inform you. Join me as I sit down with my next guest to cover their humble beginnings, challenges they faced, as well as their accomplishments in life. You are bound to learn something new, so sit back and enjoy the interview. On this episode, we had another great guest, Lake Markham. We had them on the show 3 years ago to talk about writing, music, and photography. But in this episode, we covered something we didn't cover in the last: his experience on the famous YouTube series Filthy Frank as Dade, and also his own YouTube series known as Bald Internet Man. This podcast was nothing short but amazing, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks. I'll just kind of start at the beginning. I'm younger, and right now I love filming. I love doing videos since I was a kid. I did the same too, with my friends, making videos. And for you creativity has been a big part of your life. Younger, when you were growing up, and now you're doing a lot of music, you're writing. We talked a little about that in our conversation. And so one of the big parts of your life that, you probably think about here and there that's impacted your life is being involved in, this big web series that was back in the days. It was fun. You're with your friends, you're filming, and there's a lot that can be said, but we can only talk about some of the things. I just wanted to kind of hear and just cover, kind of like in our conversation right now, just creativity, being creative in the idea of making film. We talked a bit about writing, last conversation, music, but videoing. I was just watching some a few minutes ago, and it's just really cool, like looking into what you did 3 years ago with your own series, the series that you appeared in earlier. It's just really cool to see how you've grown, the camera angles, the story, how complex it is. Just, first question, how did you kind of get interested in these web series, as you can kind of, I guess you can call it? Was it that your friends were like, let's do this, or how did that look?
Yeah, I think for me, because even before, in Japan, before all that happened, when I was in middle school, still in the U.S., my neighborhood friends and I would get together and make videos. And, YouTube was such a new thing at the time that was coming out. And, everybody was watching videos and saying, I can do that. I remember, after Star Wars Episode 3, a big thing was, I started seeing people make their own lightsaber videos. So somewhere on some old PC in my mom's attic, I believe there's probably still one of my first videos where, I animated frame by frame a lightsaber into, my neighbor and me fighting doing lightsaber battles. So like video was always something that was just there, much like it is today, except, being that age, I think in 2000, whatever, 2004, 2005, it's new. And it's still really young and fertile. And there's all kinds of, avenues and ways that you find that you can manipulate it. So yeah, we did videos, and of course my mom at the time hated it because I showed my face on the internet, like you're going to get kidnapped or whatever. But yeah, and then in high school, we obviously made videos, and then even after that, it does remain like the sort of master medium on the internet. So I do video stuff from time to time now. I really wanted a way to capture sort of the bald internet man. I don't know, not aesthetic, but the profile or whatever, the branding that was there. We wanted to tell stories. My friends and I always sat around and made stuff up. So it was like, well, what if we have this character Dave, loosely associated with an unnamed character, and just like told what happened to him in his life. It's sort of like an "I'm not touching you" kind of thing,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was just fun. It was just something fun to do with my friends. And, one of the guys there actually, until recently, made his living shooting video for touring bands, musicians, just working on film sets, whether independent or larger scale. And so he was the guy that did all camera work, which is why, the video quality was like professional grade.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of how that looked.
Yeah, and again, it starts out as something fun, and then it can kind of grow into something a lot bigger. And sometimes people, when you even do it, you look at it and you're like, for me, I guess you could look at a song. You make a song just for fun, and then other people look at it differently than you do. And I've kind of realized that with a lot of things. I guess as a creative, some people will place things higher on a pedestal, and then you'll have it kind of lower. And so it's cool to see that you were able to kind of with your friends make content and just have a fun blast. But the thing about what makes the situation with you special is it blew out, not out of proportion, but it grew a following then and also now. And so I kind of wanted to ask second question, you're in these situations having fun. Did you find any instance where you kind of felt yourself kind of growing in knowledge about things through the idea of filming and having making videos? It's a thing that you look at and say, oh, it's just filming. But when you look deeper, you're like, wow, I learned how to do this when I did that. I learned how to do this when I did this.
Yeah, I think that like in particular with like Bald Internet Man stuff, which we ended it pretty neatly, I think. And the story really gets exciting right after the halfway point, or right around the halfway point. But the thing is, you watch those videos, and as I watch the videos, and you can tell too in the viewership, where in the beginning, we were struggling to convey stories a little bit more.
Mhm.
Whereas toward the end, we kind of had the storytelling down to a T, I think. And there's a lot that goes into the presentation of a story, is what it taught me ultimately. Like, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter how good the story is in your head, if you can't convey it the right way, then you're going to see a drop in viewership, or you're going to like have like number two sad pills. That one is a little bit longer and goes through around the bush a little couple times. And um, whereas toward the end, all the videos were a little bit shorter, but they were neater. They conveyed what
Mhm.
they convey, and they contributed to the story in a more, I think, intentional way. And so, yeah, like
Yeah.
just the way that all the parts on screen are right on the page or whatever need to contribute to the movement as a whole. At least in video as a format, I found, because before that we'd always done. Um, Shorter videos or one-off things, and even with like the Filthy Frank stuff, it was I wasn't the one in charge of constructing
Mhm.
the lore, and I wasn't in charge of editing the video or in telling the story. I just showed up. So
Mhm.
that, like, driving that machine on my own was very steep learning curve. So that's one thing that I learned about, and it helps me in writing, right? Because
Mhm.
writing is very similar. You have to be intentional about what you articulate and what shows up on the page to become part of what the story will have been. And so um, it's a little bit different, but the same kind of principle applies, I think. And so it was just in that regard very helpful, very like informative, educational.
And it's really good that you were able to kind of grow and learn through even this these situations. And you mentioned in your project you're running it with your friends. You have this position that you're not really used to, and of course it's challenging, but you're of course going to grow and come out as, I guess, a more knowledgeable person than you were when you actually got into it. And so it's really fun to hear about, from your journey, being involved in these different things. Now kind of going to the subject of the character. I know you've played a variety of different characters over the journey of doing these series. And it's just looking into what people have said. They're like, wow, he put a lot of effort into that. He's going full out into these roles. Like, and I just kind of wanted to hear. I don't know if you've ever shared it. How do you do that? How do you get into that role? It's messy. It quite literally is messy at times. And so I kind of wanted to hear about that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you can tell, like, even just in my performance between Dade and Dave. I was younger when I did Dade, and I was a little bit more, ready to jump in and be outrageous. And plus, too, I think the chemistry of that those friends, that circle of friends, was a little bit more chaotic in a good way.
Hmm.
Whereas, later on, it was still messy, but it was a lot more reserved. I think, I think I was, but I grew up a little bit in between. I've
Yeah.
got older. So yeah, it used to just be fun. Part of the bit was to be off the wall, jumping, from here to there. But yeah, I don't know. got old, man. That's uh, yeah. So I don't know. It never seemed like anything that required effort. It was just part of it, you know. That was
Right.
who the character was. So
So it's like a switch you can kind of just turn on and you become that character. I mean, I feel like some people are like, no, I can't be chaotic, but some have this, I guess you could call it like this hidden chaotic nature inside of them that they can kind of turn on.
for sure, and I think too that like there's a big difference between Involved Internet Man, where the character's walking around in a cowboy hat and a denim jacket. You kind of adopt the the vibe, whereas running around in your underwear, you're already kind of a layer removed from normality, so it's easier to jump into that.
Yeah, I know one of your other good friends also similar did the same thing in the older series that you were in as well. And so it's kind of fun to see all the different types of characters and who they are, kind of somewhat wrapping up this the somewhat of the older series that you were involved in, but kind of like looking back, from where you were when you were younger and looking back now, what was some of your like favorite memories? Just like a favorite moment, like wow, you look back on it even to this day sometimes, you're walking and you think about, hey, that was fun. I really enjoyed that because we all have those things in life where you're walking around and you think about something, that one moment that was really, really awesome. I wanted to hear that from you.
Yeah, it was just having fun with my friends. We had such a hard time not laughing, like when we were doing the videos. Maybe my favorite, I mean, because a lot of times too, what we did was we would get together every Thanksgiving in a different city in America. We'd come from Japan. And so, all of us who were here would meet up for Thanksgiving. And
Mhm.
that was when we do a lot of the videos. And so it was just, always a really nice, like the, yeah, the scene where Dade dies in the bathtub or whatever. We were in an Airbnb in Brooklyn, I think, just together for the holiday, having a great time. And that was fun. The scene where I ate the worm, that was the love.
Oh,
And the cool thing about that was the last one we made, and it was the last time I went to New York, right as I was moving to Texas. I
mhm.
visited New York. I spent about 3 weeks in Kentucky with my mom, and then I got in my car and I drove to Texas. It was pretty crazy. And so that one is bound up with those memories too. Yeah. So I think that's what I look back on the most is just um, like an archive of the moment in my life that it was in.
And I look back at that too, looking at my videos, I think for me, it was just a fun one. I've always wanted to drink a blended McDouble. I don't know why. I'm like, it's such a bizarre idea. So me and my friend just did a video of us drinking a blended McDouble outside the whole meal. And I look back at that, I'm like, that was so much fun. I wish I could go back in time and relive that because that was just such a fun moment in a very stressful life of just school and high school. And I guess, with these projects, before I go into the conversation of the transition, how you kind of with Bald Internet Man, like if you were able to get, all your friends from past to present all together to make a video, what would you want that video to look like and why? Because it seems like, you enjoy doing videos, you enjoy making videos. So if you had this opportunity to get people from the past, people from now, all come together to make a video, could be related to what you did with Bald Internet Man. What would you want it to look like?
I think about that kind of thing a lot, and not particularly like in regards to video, but like if I feel like I've lived in different places and I've had a lot of different friends and I've done a lot of very different things in my life, and so I've been around a lot of very different people.
Mm-hmm.
And I always think, if I were to have all those people in a room, how little some of them would have in common with one another. But I think, if I were to bring people together for a video somehow related to Bald Internet Man, number one, there would be a heist.
Ooh.
There would have to be a heist of some kind. There'd probably be, cars jumping off of extreme heights, insane stunts. But like the thing that they were after would be something really, really, really ridiculous, like a vape pen or something like that. Right? Or the charger for somebody. Somebody lost their USB charger for their vape pen, so they have to conduct this elaborate heist, and they have to pass a series of villains on their way to the boss. And then there's a boss level fight. Yeah, in a chemical plant. Something like that is
Yeah.
probably if I had unlimited budget. and everybody was gathered for the occasion. Oh, there'd be a musical number too with my friend Dale Hollow. Um,
Yes.
yeah, can't forget him. I actually just saw a show of his that here in Chicago a month or so ago. He just got signed to Empire, so they
Oh
are
wow.
touring in promotion for their album, which is coming out very soon, and I'm excited about
Okay.
it. Anyway, all that
Yeah.
to say, yeah, that's probably what it would look like,
And hey, if you ever get the budget and you ever get the opportunity, maybe you can do that for a reunion or something. 'Cause I know people still think about those things to this day. It hasn't really disappeared. It might have gone a little bit down, but it's super cool what you've been able to do. And I just you definitely know the impact it's had. You've seen the all around what people had to say. This is what I'm curious about. I don't think you've ever talked about this directly, but you've got Bald Internet Man. And then you have the series prior to that. And I want to hear kind of about I guess, how did Bald Internet Man come to be? And one question that I was very curious is, was there anybody involved in the previous series who checked it out and said, hey, this is good, man. I love what you're doing.
Uh, there wasn't a whole lot of engagement between the first and the second.
Hmm.
Yeah, we got started mainly because I'd come back from Texas to Nashville. My friends and I were kicking around the idea. We didn't really plan pineapple tours out anymore, but
Hmm.
wanted to do something. And two of my friends, the one I mentioned to you before, was working in video, and the other one of my friends who played the character Rick, his real name's Eric, but he was also doing some freelance video stuff at the time, so it made sense. He was working at a coffee shop, and I was working at a bar, and we lived together briefly. But even when we didn't, we still hung out. But after work, we just do the dumbest stuff, man. We were, drinking beer, smoking pot, throwing stuff off like balconies, and um, just kind of living life and not really going anywhere, but having a good time doing it. And so we were like, man, how can we like make this a compelling story? So we tried to capture it through Bald Internet Man. We were all taking antidepressants, so that's where sad pills came from, and um, you know everything in Nashville was being torn down and replaced by cheap housing, cheap luxury housing. So that's where the developer came from. Nashville's full of music industry folks, so that was the manager. The character Michael, Dirty Santa, he was based on. There's a music video by the Killers called "Don't Shoot Me, Santa," and it's like, in my opinion, maybe the only dope Christmas song. But there's a character in that, I don't remember who plays him, but he's Santa trying to kidnap the lead singer of the Killers and bury him alive, and he's crazy. He's all
Hmm.
dirty, um, just this fat, sweaty guy in a Santa suit, and so we wanted to like somehow incorporate that, So yeah, so we like this idea of like these cartoon characters walking around in the real world next to very real, like, I don't know, working class dudes or whatever. So yeah, that was where it came from, and yeah, there was it was fun, and then we stopped, but
Hmm.
yeah, no, wasn't a whole lot of communication or anything with folks from the previous
Ah.
show, but yeah, there was enough that I felt it was a good, fun, worthwhile use of my time. So
Yes.
put it that way.
It was very good. I mean, and I love the ideas that you had for your show. It was just like, this is so cool. And I mean, it'd be cool to even like get a graphic novel and continue it. Like, I don't know. I just love what you guys did there. And again, what happened in the other show too. Just everything is just, it's super cool, the impact of what a simple internet series
we
can have.
we had an artist who was reaching out to us asking. He'd actually done a lot of art for me in the past, but he designed in particular the cartoon faces for Bald Internet Man and Michael that were available on the merch shirts when those were
Hmm.
out. But yeah, if you've seen like the black and white Bald Internet Man cartoon, it was that guy, and he offered, and we thought about it. Just didn't make sense at the time because it wasn't generating any income. But
Mhm.
definitely think that those characters have a life that could go on. There's still story to tell there just because they're cartoons.
Yeah, and the stories there's endless opportunities for those stories, and looking back, there's so much that can be said, but very limited as what can be talked about. But it's just such a crazy thing, and it impacted a lot of people. And I mean, I didn't put this in my list, but like, what's the craziest place? Like, have you been stopped before? Like, hey, aren't you that guy? Aren't you that? Like, does that still happen? I know it kind of over
Not
time, but
all the time. There was one time I was working at a bar, and we may have talked about this last time.
oh
And
yes.
yeah, some kid said like was very obviously uncomfortable, and his mom or something. I don't know. It was a bar, so he couldn't have been too much of a kid. But his mom or guardian, whoever it was, said, "Are you a comedian? He knows you from the internet." And I was like, "Oh gosh." It doesn't happen very frequently, especially as I get older, which is
Yeah.
probably a good thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. Well, this question was the last question. This is more of a fun question that I'm like, oh my gosh, do people actually think this? You might have seen it on my question list. I think maybe. And I discovered this like a while back, and I'm like, I have to ask. I have to ask this, even though it might be a little bit weird. So you know what's it called? You know how to basic. People have this weird idea that bald internet man is was how to basic. And so I'm gonna ask you so we can break that open. Are you how to basic?
I can neither confirm nor deny the allegations.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll just end right there. I know that was a bit of a weird question, but they were wanting me to ask that. But no, it was really great to catch up, and I can't wait. I forgot to ask this one more question, but is there any crazy projects that you are are you working on right now, or things that we can expect to see from you, whether it be your music or a book from for the future?
Um, I don't know, man. Right now, I've kind of grown out of it a little bit. Like, I don't actively write or record or work on any Pineapple Tours music. Um,
Mm.
the band all broke up and moved away. Same thing with
Oh,
bald internet man stuff. We all live in different parts of the country now. So mostly just I've got a piano and I play that, and just try and incorporate art into my real life. Um, but in terms of a book, I don't know. We'll see. Um, it depends. Maybe I spend time doing it. What I'm thinking about doing is putting out a short story collection alongside a piano piece for each story that I finish as a companion, as sort of soundtrack for it or mood set. Maybe like an interactive work of some kind, publish it on a USB drive or something like that. But right now, nothing's really on the horizon. So
nothing wrong with that. Well, hopefully you're able to kind of get into an area where you're, I guess, creating a lot of amazing things. I know you love creating things, and I've seen that you've been wanting to publish a book. And so it's unfortunate that of course life goes on and people go separate ways, but hopefully you're able to create something awesome and wonderful, and it's very, very soon. And it's very sad to hear about Pineapple Tours. I didn't know about that. So that's just, it's kind of sad. I love the music. I was listening to that a lot. I've even shown it to a few people here in Canada. I'm like, look at this band, guys.
yeah, the live band broke up. 2019 was our last show, so it's been a little.
Ah,
Mhm.
darn. Well, I always ask my guests this one question, but what would you like to pass on to any number of the listeners listening to this who maybe want to start their own web series, or who want to do whatever career? What would you pass on to them? Because of course you've experienced the highs and lows. You've experienced almost it all involving the internet stuff. So I'd love to hear from you.
Have lots of fun and be very careful.